So we're going to light our candle first of all, something we do as tradition now in Unity. So if you do have a candle there and you'd like to light it, please do. So it's become a tradition in Unity for us to light our candles to represent the light that is in all of us. So I have mine here. I can see Nancy, your one there's reflecting beautifully on your face. So if you do have a candle there, just take a moment to witness the flame, the movement, the flickering, the color, the shape, and know that that flame recognizes that inner light within all of us that we experience in different ways at different times. Sometimes it seems brighter than others, but that inner light within all of us is always present. And that's what we recognize when we light our candles. It's recognizing the light in us, that eternal light that actually never goes out, is never dimmed. Nobody can take it away. We either are conscious of it or we're less conscious of it, but the light is always there. So to help us get centered, continuing in this beautiful energy, we're going to share our opening affirmation and speak it out loud together and allow that to take us into some quiet prayers. So if you'd like to join me in reading it on the screen, please do. I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge God's presence and power, which through divine wisdom within me erases my mortal limitations and brings forth the pure substance of love into our world according to God's perfect law. So let's take a moment to acknowledge these words as true for ourselves individually and as true for all of us present. That right now we are immersed in the presence of pure being. We feel that. We let go into that energy, that pure being that holds us and expresses through us and around us and as us. Expressing through us as love and wisdom as we show up in the world, as we do whatever is ours to do. That shows up as our life and vitality and energy. And know that this same presence and energy is alive within all those whom we hold in prayer and in our hearts. So if there's anyone that comes to mind whom you hold in prayer, let's know together now that energy of divine life, love, and wisdom shines brightly within them, beautifully, radiantly, and that in their own way they come to receive this and know this for themselves. And as we hold this for our dear ones, we can hold that same knowing for our world, that all people everywhere may come to know in their own way that beautiful radiant energy of life, love, and wisdom within them and within those around them. We hold that vision of peace and harmony with each other and with our world and all life upon it. And in the sacredness of this moment, we say thank you. Thank you, God. Amen.
Today's daily word is surrender for Sunday, July the 20th. Spiritual surrender is my path to peace. It's natural to have ideas and preferences about how things should be and to work toward the results I want. but I can exhaust myself if I attempt to exert control over my life's circumstances. In fact, the more I try, the less control I feel I have. Releasing the illusion of control, I practice spiritual surrender, so much more than giving up. Surrendering my efforts and my hopes to the divine within me is an act of empowerment. It means living my faith that God is in and through all things. It means trusting that there are outcomes better than the ones I have imagined. I surrender to God's peace and perfection within me. I give up trying to control outcomes and relax, welcoming serendipity and ease. Surrender is the way. And from Proverbs 23 verse 26, my child, give me your heart and let your eyes observe my ways. That's a beautiful daily word message. So let's just have a few moments just taking within those words. Surrender. I surrender to God's peace and perfection within me. I give up trying to control outcomes and relax, welcoming serendipity and ease. Surrender is the way.
I am a child of the living God, made in the image of perfect love. All that I am, all I've been given to you, my God, I surrender.
So normally this would be one of my favourite subjects, I surrender. I spoke about it a little bit at the workshop yesterday. But when we talked about redoing the talk this month, I really latched onto a daily word back in June that struck something in me, struck a chord in me, that I thought actually I'd like to expand on this. So the daily word that I really responded to is from the 10th of June, and it's adventurous is the theme. I heed the call to explore. I am adventurous. And it was the opening paragraph that really impacted me. So I've asked Sally to read it for you.
Adventurous. I heed the call to explore. I am adventurous. I am meant for so much more than a small, unexamined life. The world is vast and its wonders infinite. I answer the call to explore and grow and discover what life has to offer and to feel my life expand. If I struggle with the idea of striking out on my own and having new experiences, I remember that God is everywhere present, and presence of the divine is within each new person that I encounter. This realization comforts and encourages me to seek new vistas and try new things.
Thank you, Sally. Brilliant energy in that reading as well. So it really struck me, and I think it was the first line even. I am meant for so much more than a small, unexamined life. And, that it's like, because we so often limit ourselves in what we think we are, what we think we can do, what we think we can be. And that first line is really encouraging us. We are so much more than that. We are so much more than we think we are. And for me, this applies to every level of our experience. So, yes, physically, we are more than we think we are with our bodies. Sometimes we identify with the way our body is and think that's all it is, and it can never be any different. But our body is so much more than we think it is. It's got life and vitality in every cell and every atom, and can express that beautifully and wondrously in ways that we might not have explored before. Our thinking, we so often restrict our thinking in how we're responding to life. And in A Course in Miracles, we're encouraged to know, I see this differently. I can see this in a different way. I can respond in a different way. And in our emotions, we can be reminded, I have nothing to fear, for God is here. We are so much more than how we identify with ourselves as a human being. But even more than that, we're so much more than we think we are as spiritual beings. And that's such a huge thing to tap into. We say we're human beings and spiritual beings, but we're so much more than how we identify with that. There is so much more to us than we think we are. So I'm going to invite you right now, take a moment, close your eyes. Say to yourself out loud even, I am so much more than I think I am. I am so much more than I think I am. What's your response to that? How are you responding right now in that moment, in that expression? So how are you responding? Is it, oh, I'm not sure? Or is it, yes, I am so much more than I think I am? So we'll come back to that for our meditation at the end of this. And I just wanted you to take a moment and tap into what that means for you, how you're responding to that. Because whatever our human experience, whatever our life or however our life is showing up for us right now, we are so much more than that. We talk about God as everywhere present, and that God energy is showing up in amazing ways and available to all of us in ways beyond even which we could possibly imagine. But we can take hold of that idea, we can take hold of that thought and say yes to that thought. Our soul is seeking to know itself, to expand its experiences, to grow in all the different ways that we experience our life in these amazing bodies on this amazing planet. Our soul is seeking to expand, to grow, to connect, to understand, to create, to express. And in each one of us individually, just where we are in our own amazing ways, with our own amazing talents and gifts and abilities, showing up right where we are. So how do we do this? Well, actually, Psalm 119 does explore that with that quote at the bottom of the Daily Word on that page. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. So I thought I'd explore the psalm just a little bit and share some of that with you, and using the study Bible that we use in Unity. So first off, it's the longest psalm, apparently. It's got 176 lines, so you'll be delighted to know we're not going to explore all of it. We'd need all afternoon. But what it does in this psalm is it shows a person of faith who is struggling with life, who doesn't understand what's going on and why it's happening, but wants to understand what's going on. And the psalm is described as a meditation on God's law, which of course for the Hebrews is the Torah. And in the Torah, God is law, God is principle. And the author is earnestly desiring to live a God-filled life, but isn't doing it right now. He's got one challenge after another. It's struggle. And the author gets frustrated and sometimes angry and upset. I don't understand what's going on. Show me, Lord. But at the same time, in the midst of that struggle, acknowledges that God is a lamp to the feet, a light to the path, sweet to taste, and a reality in which everyone can take joy and delight even in every challenge. And so that's true for us, because sometimes it's easy to step out in faith and grow and expand and do something new, and we really want to do it. But at other times we feel constricted, constrained, experiencing challenges. It could be physically, could be in our thinking, in our feeling, in our lives, whatever aspect of ourselves that is. And that's when it really helps to say, yes, okay, this is a struggle right now. And God is here in the very midst of me. God is the lamp that lights my way. God is the love in my heart that seeks to understand, that seeks to take us forward. So it's all about coming back to God, coming back to that energy that is ever present, always with us, even in the midst of every situation, every struggle, every seeming trial. Here is God with us always. And as we take scriptures forward in time to the time of Jesus, who was also a Jew and knew the Torah, Jesus spoke of the law being as love, that love is the fulfillment of the law. And we are here to express that love. And he did that, of course, through his teachings, his healings. He showed up as love in that time and place. And I suggest that that invitation is true for all of us here today and every day, to show up as love, to show up as understanding. So I'm reading a Unity book, a recent published book, which is called Understanding Your Soul, that Unity have published this year, last year. It's quite a recent one. And it's written in there, and I'm quoting this so that you can hear these words. You are more than you have ever imagined yourself to be. You are in a physical body, but that is only a small part of yourself. Your soul, your spirit is eternal, and it seeks to expand by raising its energy and helping others raise their energy through the assistance and power of unconditional love. And that unconditional love for me is my definition of what God is. And that's why for me the fulfillment of the law is love. It's being as love, expressing as love, and honoring each other as love. The book invites us to know that our soul is on a quest. Its desire, its intention to expand, to grow, and to know itself and others as love. So that's quite an invitation. That's quite an encouragement, because what we are being told is that we are created in the image and likeness of God. We are love. And we came here on this planet perhaps to live as that love. So that when we meet the challenges, when we meet our life experiences, we can remind ourselves and know that we are love. And when we see another that perhaps isn't living out their potentiality as love, is to hold that truth for them and with them. That underneath the struggle and the actions that we deem not so worthy, not so good, but underneath all of that, they are loved. They are love. So let's bring it back to you. Let's bring it back to you here and now. And to know that you are on a journey, a quest to know yourself as love, to expand that love, to grow that love, to share that love, right where you are with your neighbors, your community, in your world, through your talents and gifts, by just where you are. And it doesn't matter how old we are, what our experience is. It can be our end days. And yet in our end days, we can know ourselves as love and live in that love and be that love. So that love is calling us to be adventurous, to step out of our comfort zone, to grow, to think big, to think greater than perhaps we can imagine our lives to be. So with all that in mind, I invited a few people to share some examples in their lives of how they have thought big, how they've stepped out of their comfort zone, and how that showed up in their lives. So Peter and Nuala and Sherry-Ann both said yes to sharing some stories with us. So in that order, I'm going to hand over to Peter, who's going to share, and then Nuala, it's your turn, and then we're going to share a video from Sherry-Ann, who can't be with us today. So thank you, Peter.
When you first asked me about this, I wasn't too sure whether I should be doing it. It sounded like I was boasting, but the more I thought about what it meant, the more I kind of thought this is something I would like to do. In the first part of my working career, I worked in the computer industry in sales and marketing, and I was actually surrounded by people that thought big. And it wasn't so much the ideas that they were coming up with, but it was the regularity of which they thought about it and how they competed with other computer companies. And I guess that set something in my mind about thinking big. The other half of my career, I ran my own company, and I didn't think I really did think big because I didn't want exotic offices, lots of staff, company cars, that sort of thing. I just enjoyed what I did, but the thinking big part stuck with me. So the two examples I'm going to tell you about are actually nothing to do with work, which in a way is important to me because they're more significant. The first was in 2002, when I was sort of the next person in line to be the chairman of the Woking Chamber of Commerce, which is effectively a business organization, the chambers of commerce all around the country. And it ran quite modestly. Once a month, they had a meeting. It was a lunch. People gathered. They were supposed to do business and went home, and it produced a newsletter. And as a person who wanted to think big, I thought this is not enough. So I came up with a simple idea. Let's have an exhibition where people actually should be forced, if you like, to sell. They invested in a stand and put themselves out there. And I went to the local went to the local borough council. They gave me some space in which to put up the stand, and it went really well. For 3 years, they said, do it. And what it eventually meant was that while the chamber had initially 150 members, after 3 years, we had nearly 400. And what made me particularly smile and remember this is 2 years later, recently, we went back into Woking and there was a sign saying, exhibition, Woking means business. And that brought a wry smile to my face because that's what I started. The second example is the 5th of November. You all know what that means, bonfire night or fireworks night. And in Woking, it was run by Round Table, which are a small charity. And they would have a local man that set off the fireworks, a man that ran stalls and a fun fair. And they made about £1,500, £2,000 every year, and it was donated to charity. And that was great. Problem with Round Table was when you became over 40, you left the organization. Which made recruitment very difficult. Younger people are always notoriously difficult to recruit for charity things. And they also didn't allow women in, which was a huge mistake, in my opinion. So it just happened in 2012 that I took over as president of Rotary, which incidentally does take on women. And I came up with some big ideas. Firstly, I said, why don't we have the world champions of firework displays showing the fireworks? And yes, there is a world champion. Every year it's held down in Plymouth, and we pick the world champions. I said to the man that ran the fireworks, who ran the stalls, I mean, that they should pay us first. And I went to the council and saying, we don't have the money to put this on because we need fencing. People were climbing over. Will you support us? And they gave us the field and they promised to back it for the first 3 years. Well, to cut a long story short, we paid everything back in 3 years. And in 2024, last year, the cost of the firework display was £28,000, a hell of a lot more than started. But the money we made was £72,000, and 44,000 of that, 100%, goes to charity. So what that means to me, I think it means 3 things. Firstly, it means something to me personally. I feel very proud I was involved with it, and it's hopefully a lasting memory. Secondly, the people that worked with me. I didn't do any of this by myself, and they were the people like me who wanted to achieve the same things, and I did a lot for them. And thirdly, there were people who were not directly involved who it affected. All those companies that made a lot of money from the exhibition, and all those people who attended the firework display and said, wow, what a wonderful display that was. And that for me is what really thinking big is. It's not just me, it's all the people it affected and did good. Wow. Thank you.
My experience of one example of thinking big is when I founded a home care agency in the wild west of Ireland. John, my husband, had taken early retirement and we relocated there. So I was at a loss what to do. But one of the first things I had to do was to find a good accountant to help me understand the tax system and the new euro exchange in order to understand how the wage system worked and how I would structure my clients' fees. Eventually, I found a reputable man, a local accountant called Francis Collins, and we arranged a meeting. Following a very long chat about my intentions and the plans, the conversation eventually came around to the subject of finance. And what are your resources, Nuala? How much do you have to set up this business, Francis asked, Mr. Collins asked. I said 10. Oh, 10,000. Well, that's not a bad start, he said with a gleam in his eye. No, Mr. Collins, €10. Well, there was a long silence, and the gleam left his eyes, and he looked at me as if he was ready to call the men in white coats. However, long story short, 5 weeks after that meeting, I had my first 2 part-time clients. 6 months after the meeting, I had several part-time clients and 2 full-time clients, and I had 5 team members.